Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
The stealth eagle's about to fly. Ditto with a swooping swallow.
Well, lead on, fly boys.
All right, welcome back to a brand new episode of The Pint. We're getting out of Vandamuary. The month has changed to February. And just like the last, 3 years now? Yeah, we're in year 4. It's Forgotten February again, where we bring folks on from the wonderful Forgotten Entertainment. Go check all the great shows out there on ForgottenEntertainment.com. The very soon to be ending Forgotten Cinema, Recent Activity, yet another Star Wars podcast. There's a ton of good stuff on there to check out. Now, the second part of this episode that's special is if you go to Patreon/The Pint, we have our Patreon, $2.50 a month, and we always try to get our patrons movie picks out there. And I've got a patron named Amanda. And Amanda, every time I've asked her about a movie pick, she's not wishy-washy, but she gives me a few different ones. And I'm not sure if I feel the passion from her, but I check out her Instagram once in a while, and I've noticed that she appears to be a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fan. Collectibles, toys, stuff like that. The current comics from, I think, Boom, right? Is it Boom that does the comic?
Boom Studios, yeah.
So I said, hey, I'm going to do a surprise Pint Insider episode. So Amanda, hopefully you enjoyed the movie. Because we are going to be talking about 1995's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. Now, a couple months ago, I went to a Forgotten Entertainment event. We had some beers, had some pizzas, had a great time. My guests tonight were there, and when I brought up this movie, they both jumped at wanting to be on it, and I'm fine with that because I think our age difference is I'm not into this stuff, and these guys probably grew up right in it. It's Shamar and Andrew, the co-hosts of yet another DC animated podcast over there on Forgotten Entertainment. Guys, first of all, how are you? And second of all, tell everybody out there all about your show.
Hey. How y'all doing? So yes, my name is Shamar Griffith, as we say in the show, codename Comics Jams.
And I'm Andrew Tejada, codename RJ.
Yeah, so we've been friends since like 1996, so like the year right after this movie came out. I feel like this probably was the reason why we became friends.
Yeah, I think it brought us together.
Yeah.
That and then also the year of Independence Day. That's 1996.
That's right. Yeah, so you guys kind of like gelled over Power Rangers. Can I ask, are you the same age? What age were you around at that point?
What age?
Yeah.
We must have been.
We are the same age, and
we're old enough to forget, but we must have been 4 or 5.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. I was a babe when the show started.
So you guys were fans of the show as well. It wasn't just the movie got you into the show. You guys carried it on. Now, the thing about the Power Rangers as a franchise is that as opposed to so many other things that were popular at a time, like, SpongeBob, big, huge thing. Barney, big, huge thing for kids. But Power Rangers is still fucking producing new content, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're as old as Power Rangers, I realized.
Yeah, we pretty much are. And it's almost been canceled 3 times due to network changes. And what it tends to happen is they announce it's the final season. This is it. And then they go off on a big hurrah and the ratings get bumped up. So they keep bringing it back.
Yeah. And that's like with the end of the Zordon era, which was back. I remember I actually was sick from school, air quoting that. And my mom picked me up and then literally turned on the TV as soon as I got home to watch this final episode that was supposed to be the end. And then since then, like Andrew was saying, it changed from, if I remember correctly, it was on Channel 5, then it went over to Channel 7. that they started doing the remastered version of the original series, and then it hopped on over finally to Nickelodeon, which I believe is where it's currently now.
They did a stint on Disney and Netflix in between, but I think it might. It's between Netflix and it's crazy. It's everywhere now.
Yeah. So we're not like talking about DC animated content on our show. There's a strong chance we're watching either old or new episodes of Power Rangers.
Now, are you guys fans of the comics?
I haven't read too much of the comics. I did read the crossover that they have with the Justice League. And I've always kept kind of like an ear onto what's been happening in the comics. So like Lord Draken and everything else has been happening with the battle for the Morphin grid and everything like that. I do want to get back more into it, especially because I did see that they had like a series where they crossed over the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there's like 2 really cool moments, like one with them, the Turtles actually wearing the suits, I believe, and another one where the Turtles got turned into teenagers with attitude.
Good Lord.
More so than they already are.
Right.
It's funny you mentioned the Turtles, because the reason my co-host Lloyd isn't on the episode with me is 2 years ago during Forgotten February, Mike Butler from Forgotten Cinema, we used to do the Pint Invitational movie show where we would ask people to give us a movie to do. And he picked, Mike was of that age as well, he picked the original 1990 Mutant Ninja Turtles film, the live action one. And my co-host Lloyd, guy in his 50s, that movie almost drove him off the show. So when I decided we were going to do this, I just straight out told him, don't bother. Like, because if the Turtles pushed you like into like the nether regions of sanity, then the Power Rangers are going to make you fucking just drop down and die. It's too much. It's just too much. So, all right, let's get a little bit into the information about the Power Rangers film. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, came out on June 30th, 1995, a summer film directed by a guy named Brian Spicer. He did a couple of like comedies after this, McHale's Navy, the Tom Arnold film, and For Richer or Poorer, which was a Tim Allen film, written by a guy named John Camps. He co-wrote the story. He went on to write stuff like Zathura, the Jumanji sequel. Yeah. And he also did a Ricky Gervais movie called Ghost Town. His co-story author was a guy named Arnie Olson. He's also the screenplay writer. So he wrote the screenplay by himself. He did stuff like there's a Burt Reynolds film from the 90s called Cop and a Half, where he has like a little kid partner. He wrote that. And he also wrote All Dogs Go to Heaven Part 2. Subtitled, I guess. Yeah. More Dogs Go to Heaven. I don't know what it's called.
It also makes sense that he wrote the script by himself, because
we'll get into that a little bit. This was filmed all over New South Wales and Sydney, Australia, between October of 94 and February of 95. Now, from what I understand, this was filmed kind of like towards the end of the second season, because there was a cash shakeup, right? Like a couple of people wanted more money. Kind of talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah. So 3 of the Rangers decided to kind of unionize in an attempt to get more money from the studio, because they were doing these dangerous stunts. They were not being compensated. And
I mean, we couldn't name them by their legal names, but for the sake of, I don't know, I'm not trying to have the Red Ranger come after me one day.
Well, he's in legal trouble anyway. But
oh, I read about that.
Yeah.
That dude's in big trouble.
Yeah, COVID embezzling. But that aside, so they did this cast turnover, and the ratings were starting to lag a little bit. So they wanted to reinvigorate the series with a big movie. So they brought in the new cast members with the idea that this would be the relaunch. Like, this would segue into the 3rd season when they would have all these new features and stuff. Problem was, they couldn't make any of this work with the Sentai footage that they had. So immediately when this movie came out, they had to redo the events of the movie on the show to justify why they had happened, because it just didn't gel with the footage they had already had access to.
Yeah. And these actors were already introduced in the show, like towards that season finale, right?
Yeah.
So they were introduced during the season finale. We get a chance to see them on the big screen. I do remember this because I'm 90% sure this was the first movie I ever saw in theaters. So it's like, not saying that these Rangers are the reason why I was headed to that. But yeah, it was like seeing, they were introduced in the season finale to then be introduced fully into this film, and then to come back in season 3, like Andrew said, the whole Sentai footage, it really screwed things over. So it's just like, there are two origin stories, and hence why this movie, although contains every single aspect and knowledge of seasons 1 and 2, is not canon at all from seasons 2 to 3.
That's insanity. And you said, I think one of you had said at one point, maybe when we were talking, that they had to so they get the Ninjetti powers in this one.
Yeah.
And those stuck, but they had to redo how they get them for the season, right?
Yep. A ninja robot called Ninjor drops by and on the show and says, hey, you guys need an upgrade, and just gives them to him.
Imagine like RoboCop just like got smashed with Sonic the Hedgehog, and you gave him a sword, and that was Ninjor.
Wow. Okay. All right. Interesting. And now one more thing I want you guys to add in for any of the listeners that don't know this property. What do you mean when you say, I know what you mean, but what do you mean when you say Sentai footage?
So the Sentai footage, because Power Rangers originates from Japan, I don't know how many seasons of Rangers they've had so far. It's astonishing. But the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was the first set of Sentai, which was what the Rangers were called. Because this footage, and in the show, they actually just threw in the actors that we knew into various scenes, but basically spliced the footage from the Sentai Japanese origin into the show. So that's why when you look really closely, you know, there's certain things where the characters seem a little bit taller or seem a little bit shorter. Right. You know, you're questioning how can certain people move a certain way. Why there's a running, I don't know if it's a joke, I feel like it's actual karate, but why hip hop keto is only seen done by Zach, the Black Power Ranger, while he's in non-transformed formation. You never actually see it when he's in the Power Ranger suit.
There's a lot going on here. There's a lot. There's a lot going on here. All right, let's talk about the cast of this film.
Bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone?
All right, so I got obviously all the Power Rangers here. I'll go down from the list as they were on IMDb. Karen Ashley plays Aisha, the Yellow Ranger. I'm going to ask you guys, what is the Yellow Ranger? What is her Zord and power set?
Save a lot of time. They all have the same power set. Yeah. Except the White Ranger is the coolest and has more powers.
And also, I don't know what it's called, but it has like a little giant lapel.
Yeah.
It makes it look kind of like a zoot suit.
Yeah, he's got like a box on top, like he's shoulder pads, yeah.
But she's Saber-Tooth Tiger, later the bear.
She becomes the bear, okay. Mm-hmm. She's a singer, and she basically, her acting career, a lot of TV appearances back in the day, hanging out with Mr. Cooper, Keenan and Kel, one episodes here and there. Johnny Yang Bosch plays Adam, the Black Ranger. Now, he is the frog in the Ninjetti, which he's very pissed off about. But what is he? He's the Mastodon? Is that
Mastodon, yes. Mastodon previously.
All right. So he starts off as the Mastodon. He's got the buckle right there with him. This dude is one of the most prolific anime, I guess, voiceover artists. Like his credits are incredible. He has built a career for himself. Trigun Stampede, Space Racers, a ton of things that I'm not going to name. You can't name them all. He does the dubs for video games. He does the dubs for the films, for TV. So he's been out there. Steve Cardenas plays Rocky, the Red Ranger. The Red Ranger is what, guys?
He is in the movie, eventually has the power of the ape, but he's always known, the Red Ranger is always known to have the Tyrannosaurus Rex sword.
Right. Yeah, right. Very cool. This guy generally kind of career-wise just ends up doing more Power Ranger stuff for the most part. Power Rangers Zeo seems to be the main thing he did. And then, at least 1 or 2 episodes of Power Rangers Ninja Steel. Jason David Frank, who we unfortunately and sadly recently lost to a suicide. I wrote this down just because I think it's important. 1-800-273-8255. That translates to talk. If you ever have those thoughts or you're down or anything, or you could text to 741-741. Mm-hmm. Real quick before I get into him, I got a story, man. I've been to a lot of Comic-Cons as a fan through the show and everything, and I saw him at least at 1 or 2 Rhode Island Comic-Cons, and I saw him there when there were some really heavy hitting like celebrities there. And that dude drew people in more than some of these, like, you know, big names. Like you might not know who Jason David Frank is, but people know. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fans know. I mean, he also, he had a brief mixed martial arts career. So yeah, unfortunately we lost him recently, but he did Power Rangers Turbo. I think he was in the sequel, right? The movie Turbo as well.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And he did some TV, Sweet Valley High. He was in 6 episodes of a live-action Sweet Valley High TV show I never knew existed.
Also, one of my favorite appearances actually was in Family Matters. He plays one of the bullies that is beating up Steve Urkel.
Is that where he confronts him in the pizza place?
Yeah, either that or in the park, I think. One of those 2 locations. And I just remember that very vividly because I never saw JDF, Jason David Frank, with a goatee until that day.
So was that post Power Rangers? Was he already like kind of known at that point?
Probably overlapped because they ran around the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, he was always like a fan favorite, as you mentioned, because it was like that VR Troopers where he's supposed to be the head runner. So I wouldn't be surprised if like other properties were trying to pick him up for something.
Yeah, I saw him interacting with a lot of people, and he seemed very, very kind and very cool. So that's a big loss. Amy Jo Johnson plays Kimberly, the Pink Ranger. Pterodactyl, and then
and then into the Crane.
Crane, correct.
Easiest transition.
Yeah. Hey, y'all. Evolution? I don't know.
They're like, you're gonna go from a bird dinosaur to a bird. We're just gonna do that. She probably has the most known credits. She's directing now, but she was in Felicity with J.J. Abrams for a while in the early late 90s. And then there was a TV show that apparently was very popular, a cop show called Flashpoint, and she was one of the leads on that. So, all right, a couple more. David Yost, Billy, the Blue Ranger, kind of a shitty story with him, a homosexual guy. And I've read some of the stuff where, he was getting bullied on set. People were giving him shit. And, I don't think he was out. And that was part of the reason he wasn't out is, he's on this kid show. And so luckily it seems to have had a happy ending, but he had it seemed like a very contentious relationship with like his time on the show and fame. Again, he did a lot of behind the screen stuff afterwards, but he has made appearances, Power Rangers Zeo and Dino Fury. And then the last 2 I'll do, Paul Freeman plays Ivan Ooze, easily my favorite character in this movie. He could smell teenagers, which is creepy as fuck. The thing that blew the top of my brain off when I was doing my research for this is that this is the guy who played Belloc in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
I don't even fucking know how that's possible.
I mean, just like he said, where's my autograph book? Because I'm ready.
He also was in Hot Fuzz. He played, I think the vicar of the village at the end. All right, and then the last one. This is kind of a confusing one. Gabrielle Fitzpatrick plays Dulcea.
Yes,
and she basically kind of had a TV career afterwards. Lost 24, some stuff like that. But she was hired, and then she ended up having like a ovarian cyst like a month into filming. She had to obviously have that taken care of, so she kind of leaves and loses the role. They hire someone who's actually pretty well known nowadays to take over for her. Who is that?
Marishka. I'm gonna butcher her name.
Are you talking about from Law and Order SVU?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Marissa Hergotsky.
Mariska Hargitay.
Oh, Hargitay. Yeah. Never had me on trivia, y'all.
So they bring Mariska Hargitay in, and they do all the Phaedos filming, which is the planet that Dulcea is on. We'll get to that. And I guess they just felt like she wasn't right. So they end up, I guess, they're getting towards the Christmas break. She tells the producers that because they weren't filming her stuff at that point, she's going to go home to America to spend time with her family. In the meantime, the other Gabrielle Fitzpatrick gets better, and they rehire her. And Mariska Hargitay calls the production company in Australia to find out when they need her back, and they fire her over the phone. So, yeah. They're like, you don't have to come back. We're okay. The first girl is back, and she feels better. So yeah, there's your cast. So let's kind of get into the story here as best we can. It's 1995. You got to put yourself in that mindset. And this is a kid's movie, but there was a period of time. I know you guys were young, 4 years old, but there was a period of time where everything in the world was extreme. Mm-hmm. And I think it was right around this time because this movie starts with a skydiving sequence set to the Higher Ground, cover by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yes. For some reason, for some kind of charity, our six Power Rangers who through the show, are they like Do people know they're the Power Rangers in the show or no?
No.
Everybody seems to love them so much in this. Like, why they're high school kids? Why is everybody so psyched about them?
When you're ready to jump out of a plane for a charity event, I mean, that says something.
Yeah, I guess. So they're going to jump out of a plane. And then, of course, I didn't mention them in the cast, but Bulk and Skull, essentially the skinny guy and the heavy guy that were like always the foils of the show, are also going to jump out of the plane. So we get this scene. Everybody jumps out of the plane. Speaking of extreme, the White Ranger, Tommy, he jumps out. He's got a snowboard attached to his leg.
Yes.
I don't get that, but they start doing like little flips and stuff around and everything, and that's all cool. And then they all kind of do like a targeted landing on a bullseye in the center of, what's the town they're in? Angel something?
Angel Grove. Yeah.
Angel Grove. Okay. Angel Grove, California, I think. They all do a targeted landing, and it's all very exciting. Bulk and Skull don't hit the target. They end up somewhere else. Where do they end up, and what is there? What's happening there?
They end up in a rock quarry.
Yeah.
Where these just like OSHA guys are excavating like 50 meters underground for some reason. And they
one of various sublevels for their building.
I don't know why. And they find they uncover an ancient tomb, and one guy's like, "Look, we got a clock. I don't want to be here another week. Let's just get a crane in here. Let's crack this baby open. Not call anybody for approval. Let's just do it." And they crack this open, and pops out the purple egg, as often happens on construction sites.
A purple egg that's being held by like a claw statue.
Claw hand. Yeah.
Now, Shamar, let me ask you a question. If you're the foreman of this site, do you secure it, or do you just put tape around it like these guys do? Because that's all they do.
This is why I now I've been like, oh no, we need to do something. We need to do all the work. But then I have to remember it was the 90s. And I was like, were things really that lax back in the day?
In Angel Grove, they were. Yeah. We meet a couple of kind of ancillary characters. We've got Fred, who's like a young guy, and he just seems to be like a, kind of kid kicking around town. And his dad, construction worker dad. But eventually we come to find out what that egg is, because some of the previous villains of the show up. Who do we have? Who are the characters that we suddenly meet in this movie that we've known from the show for a while?
Yes. So we get introduced to the OG villain, since Day of the Dumpster. We got Rita Repulsa. She's joined by Goldar, Lord Zed, and for his first and last appearance ever.
Hey, dude.
Yeah, Morons. I kid you not, that is his actual name.
Moron, you said?
Moron, like Morant, I think.
Oh, so they throw a T in there just to fool you. But
just make it classy. Hence why he had the little monocle as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys that. I didn't write it in my notes, but I was kind of struggling. I'm like, is that a monocle? Is this pig wearing a monocle?
For some reason.
Yeah. He's a cultured swine. So that is what it is.
So he shows up in this movie and never shows up again.
Never. In fact, it wasn't until the rewatch of this movie that I was just like, whatever did happen to that guy? Did he just turn to a life of good after they lost that badly? Oh, spoilers, I guess.
Oh no, we're all spoilers here. It's fine. So they show up and they all seem to be like really in reverence to what's in this egg, this Ivan Ooze character. Mm-hmm. How does he get out? Do they let him out? I can't remember.
They use lightning, which I notice is their shorthand in this movie for where any special effect.
Yes.
Just use lightning. Mm-hmm. About 20 people are electrocuted in this movie. So they decide to bring it back with a little lightning, and it works. And immediately Zed's like, "Hey, would you mind, Ivan Ooze, would you mind killing my greatest foe Zordon?" And he's like, "No prob, bro. I got a score to settle with him anyway. So I'm just going to go wait in this quarry for an hour, and then I'm going to maybe go do that."
Yeah. And he does. He goes and he finds the is there a name? It's not the Fortress of Solitude, but do they have a
Command Center?
Command Center, but I feel like it had like another name, but I feel like more Command Center, yeah.
So if you don't know, Zordon is the big kind of like head that gives the Power Rangers their instructions, and then the maybe most annoying character in movie history, C-3PO, who is that? Alpha 5?
Alpha 5, yeah.
Good Lord. I can't take that guy. But Ivan Ooze shows up and he kind of dispatches them, or at least Zordon, and Zordon ends up like really sleepy for the rest of the movie. He's not quite dead. He's not quite dead,
so
but
comfortable though.
He's like, he looks comfortable, but he's laying on a bed of like fucking crystal shards. How comfortable could that be? The whole movie, like you're waiting for them to go, Zordon, you're not sick. You're just laying on really sharp shit. Like, let's move you to a couch. You'll be okay. So once that happens, Ivan Ooze has kind of started his evil plan of, I guess he's going to take over the world, but he wants nothing to do with Lord Zed or Rita. So he gets rid of those two by putting them into what?
A snow globe.
A snow globe.
Snow globe.
What? There's so many things. He's been in a egg prison for 6,000 years, but he loves snow globes. He references the fact that he's mad that he missed the Brady Bunch reunion. I don't know how he knows all this shit because he's been in an egg for 6,000 years, but it's okay.
I did appreciate though that he basically made it equal, that the Brady Bunch reunion and the plague were on the same level of moments that he missed in history. He's very, very sad about that. So I don't know what that means about those two things, but I'm just putting it out there. That's what he said, not me.
I wasn't kidding when I said at the cast part that Ivan Ooze is my favorite character in this movie, because one of the things, I just want to dip into real quick with you guys as fans is Ivan Ooze has personality.
Mm-hmm.
Is this movie indicative of the show in terms of they don't give the fucking Power Rangers any personalities in this movie? This is I get it. It's a movie for kids, but it's literally just an exercise in jumping them from one action bit to another and then giving them cool, new Zords and stuff. But there's never a scene in the whole movie where you feel like you know anything about any of these characters. Like, other than they care about Zordon and they're willing to risk their lives to save him. There's actually a scene at the very, very end where when everything's said and done, there's a fireworks display that Tommy the White Ranger puts his arm around Kimberly. And in my head, I go, am I supposed to know that they're dating? Because I don't know if they were.
They at that point, no, but it's in between. But to your point, the earlier seasons of this show just did well, and some of the later too. They have a habit of, okay, it's going to be your episode this week, and you get one character gets character development while the rest of them support them. And this would just rotate throughout the season.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to already know coming in. The one screenwriter has assumed you've watched all of it and you know all of their personalities. Even though Rocky and Adam at the time had none to begin with. So they get even less development in this movie, believe it or not.
If Rocky and Adam weren't wearing different colored outfits, I would just think they're the same dude.
Oh my God, yeah.
They literally just seem to be playing random other guy.
There was just extras in the costume department, so they just here you go.
Yeah. So Ivan Ooze takes care of Zordon, but he tells the Rangers that there's this power on the planet Phaedos, and if you go to Phaedos, you can you'll have to go through some trials and all this stuff. You can come back and possibly get your powers back, which I didn't mention. When Zordon kind of shits the bed, they lose their connection to whatever the Power Rangers juice, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So they've just got to rely on their own skills as martial artists and whatever. So Alpha 5 has enough power to send them off to Phaedos to go find this. When they get sent off to Phaedos, it looks like, remember that NBC thing, The More You Know?
Yes.
It looks just like that. It's just 5 rainbows or 5 colors into a rainbow that just gets shot into space. I want to bring this up with you guys because I think it's really important because it's something that I could not stop thinking about in this movie. This movie had a $15 million budget. This movie came out in 1995. This movie came out 4 years after Terminator 2. Which is a landmark for special effects. This movie came out 2 years after Jurassic Park, which 30 plus years later is still about as good as you can get special effects wise. The special effects in this movie, the word special is in quotation marks. I can't figure out where this budget went because they couldn't have paid this cast a lot. They're all no names, right? Even someone like Paul Freeman, right? He was Belloc in 1981. He's not asking for that much. There's a whole bit at the end where the new Zords have to fight off Scorpineck and Hornetron or something. And the CGI, to me, is like on the level of those like General insurance commercials.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when they show the General today, what is going on here? Is there any lore behind like why this is so bad in this time?
You know, because they can't use any of this footage for the show. So it's not like they kind of channeled it back in. I have to think it was the cost of setting up overseas and doing these shoot entirely overseas, that catering and maybe it ran much longer than they were intending to go for. That's the only, because clearly they ran out of money when they came time to put the effects in.
I also want to say it probably was because of the suits too. Like usually and generally in every single Power Rangers content, they're always wearing spandex of some sort. Unless there's like, you know, a Ranger upgrade, which is usually going to Red Ranger or something. But this was the first time in which it was kind of like I think a lot of it was metallic. A lot of it has some kind of like hard casing, polymer, whatever you may call it, science words thrown into here. And this was the first time that we actually got a chance to see things like this. Like even in the movie, there are two things that never pop up ever again in the entire universe of Power Rangers, which was Aisha's the Yellow Ranger. She has like those saber-tooth headlights.
Oh yeah.
Never see that again.
Yeah.
And Rocky in his Red Ranger form, he gets a scanner. Yeah. We never see that again. And even there are two other weapons that get used. Never see that again. So I'm assuming that a lot of it went to R&D to use these for these like split-second scenes.
Yeah, because the thing with the CGI that's kind of so out there in this movie is that the practical stuff isn't bad. Like Ivan Ooze looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
The Power Ranger suits look pretty good. The Wizard of Oz like flying bird monkey things, those actually look pretty good. Like they don't look good. The costumes look good. They don't constantly look good in use, but there's some scenes where like they show them flying where it looks like they're on really bad wires, and then there's some where it's like that was a pretty good shot of them like taking off and stuff.
Yeah.
So it just seems weird that the CG seems to be the thing that they put, like when they had the budget list out, they put everything on top. They're like, oh, we got to give Johnny Young Bosch like an extra, like, you know, $500,000. But they're like, no, put that towards, you know, Scorponok or whatever.
And another thing too is that at this point in the franchise, they were used to having the big Megazord battles with the big monsters as guys in suits fighting each other. So they probably severely underestimated how much it would cost to render all of this in post, and probably spent months kicking themselves, realizing like, we don't have the time to do this. We didn't know how much this is going to cost to get some guys to render this. So I think that probably had a lot to do with the issues we see.
So they get to Phaedos. They get to the planet of Phaedos, and Phaedos is essentially just like a rock planet. It's it looks like an old burnt out rock planet. It's like Utah or something. This is probably like the backwoods of Western Australia. And they initially have like kind of a big fight scene with do you know what those bird guys were called? They have a name,
Tengu
right?
Warriors.
Tengu Warriors. They have a big fight with the Tengu Warriors. Now, just out of curiosity, did you guys enjoy like the actual martial arts scenes in this movie? Were you like, even looking at it now?
Yeah, I think it's like, it's got some fun choreography. Like, obviously not everything is, it's not the Raid by any means or anything like that. But, at this time too in the franchise, you didn't get to see a lot of the Rangers unmorphed fighting. So this is one of the rare times you got to see the actors actually doing martial arts, or their stunt people switching in real quick. So it was really nice to see them actually doing the cool stuff that we always alluded to on the show.
Yeah, because at least Jason David Frank, Rocky DeSantos, or I'm sorry, Steve Cardenas, those guys are real martial artists, right?
Yeah. And Billy and Kimberly had some athletic training as well, gymnastics wise and everything. So altogether, they had some skills. They definitely had skills.
All right. They meet Dulcea, who initially seems to kind of be putting them off, like, you know, look, I'm I'm not here to help you. She almost seems antagonistic. But then once they say, it's almost like as soon as they say the word Zordon, it's like the scene in Step Brothers where they become best friends. Like they're back at Dulcea's place. They're building bunk beds with hockey sticks. So she comes into play and she essentially tells these guys about where the power is, and there's no way you're going to get it, right? It's kind of been guarded for many years, and all the bones that you've been stepping on this planet are essentially the people that have been looking for this power. But she tells them about a new power that they can tap into, right? She's the one that gives it to them, right?
Yes, she does. I don't even know how to even describe it really, because it seems like it's she gave them a bit of like a trial access a bit because they don't get the full power, but they just get the suits. And it's not even like their full Power Ranger suits, is the Ninjetti outfits. And so I'm assuming that it's just like here's a little dose, a little sprinkle for you or something.
Yeah, so she gives them the Ninjetti outfits. Every time they say Ninjetti, it just sounds like an Italian last name to me. Ninjetti. So they all become their old Zord powers are gone, and they gain these new ones. We went over what they were earlier on. Mm-hmm. And they have to go to this tower in the middle of this rock tower in the middle of this planet Phaedos. When they get there, Andrew, they get I guess greeted by what?
These rock golems. These 4 rock golem defenders. And honestly, it doesn't even seem like the suits are helping them that much. It seems like they're just still have regular, normal strength, human teenage strength.
Right. That teenage spirit, that's all they got.
But after savagely murdering all 4 rock monsters, these teenagers,
which they do,
yeah, in horrific ways.
Actually, no, I think we do need to talk about the water that one of them fell in, and it just like basically burned it like acid.
Yeah, well, that's Australia for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Everything in Australia will kill you, including the water. So that's happening on Phaedos. They have just defeated these rock golems, and they end up getting like the full blast of power. So they're ready to go back to Earth. But let's go back to Earth for a minute, because we got to talk about one of the most amusing bits in this whole movie. It's Ivan Ooze and his plan to take over at least Angel Grove to start off with, as a 1920s like peddling salesman. What is his plan, and what is he doing?
Well, this is a good time as any to plug what we're drinking tonight for the Pint Podcast.
Ivan's Ooze.
Yeah. This is a sour, blueberry, blackberry, cherry, pomegranate, and raspberry.
Yep.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Well, who's the brewer?
12 Gates up in Buffalo, right?
Yep.
Up in Buffalo, New York. Yeah.
I'm going to look out for that. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ivan's Ooze. What's he doing with the ooze?
He is, as you mentioned, he's peddling it to these kids. He's got his little rhyme and gimmick for it. Basically it looks like silly putty. And as kids are questioning, it's like, what does it do? What can we do with it? He's just like, leaning into their childish wonder of like antagonizing their parents to the fullest. And he ultimately just says, you know what? If you want it, it's free. And he starts like throwing it over to every single kid as they're catching these jars of Ivan's Ooze. There's always this running joke about, basically the fact it was purple and how it looks kind of like purple but that's a conversation for another podcast. But as the kids are bringing it home, we see that the parents are playing around with it because they're confused. And Fred's dad ends up touching it, and we see that it, again, special effects, electricity does everything.
Yeah.
It sends a shock through his body, and he's just like mind controlled.
The plan is to take over all of the parents in town, and then they're going to build his, right? Or no, are they going to fix his? I can't remember what was the plan with the parents.
They were just excavating it.
Yeah.
They were just doing what the union guys were doing, just faster, I guess.
Right. So we didn't mention that. So when Ivan Ooze was buried all those 6,000 years ago, along with him, very like almost like the people who buried him were like, let's make this convenient if he ever gets out. They very closely buried his 2 like Zords, apparently. Like he has these 2 giant mechanical monstrosities, kaiju, you could say. One of them is like an ant. It seems like an ant. And one of them is a scorpion. Right?
Yeah.
So they bury him right there. So he has them, the parents, digging them up. So that's happening. The Power Rangers now have gotten the Ninjetti spaghetti force, and they have now the more that you know their way back to Earth, just in time to kind of save the day at the very end. So at the very end, Ivan reactivates the two monsters with his boogers, I guess. Like
essentially, yeah.
Is Ivan's ooze, like, even the stuff he's given the kid, is this stuff like coming out of his body?
We can assume so, but he does have to, at one point, operate machinery to generate additional ooze.
Yeah.
He has like the kit. I think this is all so he can get around the union, this brain mind controlling thing. But yeah, he's able to unionize and get this slime produced en masse enough to fill his Zords and mass produce this silly putty. And yeah, when he's done with the workers, again, he doesn't want to pay any fees. So he just tells them all, just go unalive yourselves in the nearest canyon, if you would.
I think it's so funny that, like, now that you think about it, Ivan Ooze's greatest threat wasn't the Power Rangers, but a union buster.
Yeah. Yeah. No
That's
joke.
all we needed.
Those California unions.
Do you think that was written in, like, as a little jab towards the three Rangers that try to unionize? Like,
I think so.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you form unions.
Almost 30 years later, we got it.
Arnie Olsen's writing the script, and he's like, "You motherfuckers want to fucking form a union? I'll teach you about this shit." That you got to really think about it. I mean, that summer this movie came out, and this movie did well. We'll talk about that. But that had to be the worst summer for those three actors. Man, it didn't work. And then what I had read, I don't know how true it was with everybody, but it kind of said that at least a couple of the other stars were like initially like, "Oh, we'll do it with you." And then, like, as soon as it was time to sign on the dotted line, they're like, we're going to stay. You three just go ahead and get gone. And it didn't work out, unfortunately. So now we have to have the big moment at the end. We have to have the big giant battle between is there a word for Ivan's? I keep calling them Zords.
Yeah, they call them the ectomorphs in the movie.
Ectomorphs.
But I do like kaiju.
They're essentially kaiju. They're ripping the city apart. They're destroying it. And the Rangers come back. And as they come back, they basically do their thing with their belt buckles and call upon their brand new powers. And as they do, and as they call upon their brand new Zords, we get this shot, another bad CG shot of the sky, and then just these 5 or 6 brand new Zords being shit out of the sky. And I gotta be honest, they don't look great. Got a giant bear.
TV show, actually, I think.
They look better on the TV show?
Because they're toys.
Yeah, they're toys. Yeah, so
Yeah.
The bear, I realized, was just so glossy. You know, it's like this just seems weird.
At one point, they forget the color of the bear and it turns blue for 2 shots, and then it goes back to being yellow. That's the lowest. That's how rushed this must have been.
Yeah. The only scene in the entire thing with the Zords that I actually thought was pretty cool was when the White Ranger was flying the Falcon Zord, and the wings come in and he shoots the missiles. I was like, okay, that's pretty dope. I would have wanted that toy when I was a kid.
I had that toy.
You had that toy? But everything else, like when they show like the lion Voltroning into like the leg or the arm or whatever, I had my head in my hands. I was like, fuck me. This CGI is so fucking bad. And then they battle it out. They destroy, I believe, the Scorpion first, right?
Yeah.
The Frog and the Falcon Zord kind of team up on it. But then they've got to fight off the ant or whatever it is. And now it's even worse because Ivan Ooze, in what may be some of the worst CGI in the whole movie, he becomes a giant like string off of a building, and he inserts himself into this Zord and then like mega ectomorphs himself into it. And the old ant face becomes like Ivan Ooze's face.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this big old fight, and they're destroying buildings, and it doesn't like it's going the Power Rangers way until one of them has a great idea that earlier in the movie, I think one time total, a comet was mentioned.
Yeah. Yep.
Some comet that passes the Earth every so many years is coming, and it happens to be right now when the fight's happening. So what do they do, guys?
Do what the only thing they can do is fly into space.
And this leads into probably one of my favorite scenes right now, where Ivan Ooze, he tackles them. We then see that while they're watching as Rita and Laura Zed still in the snow globe, they're cheering on. This is the first time you ever hear them cheering for the Rangers to actually win. But as Ivan Ooze crashes into the Zord, the Megazord, they're holding on to each other, and Ivan's got his clever wordplay of have you hugged your Zord today? And as the comment is coming, Aisha, the Yellow Ranger, does the one thing I feel makes sense in other settings. I'm not sure about this one. She presses she breaks the glass to press the big red button that knees Ivan Ooze in the, I'm assuming can I say nuts on this podcast?
Oh, you can say fucking nuts. You can say whatever.
Oh, it knees him in his fucking nuts. Yeah. Did not know that Ivan Ooze had them anyway, it leads into them saving the day because Ivan Ooze, while just in pain, crashed right into the comet.
Yeah, spraying debris on the earth.
Yes.
All that ooze. I was so confused by that red button, because do they often, when they fight like these giant monsters, are they often like organic or are they often robotic? Because like he's a robot, like robots don't have nuts. I get that he's in it, but that shouldn't have hurt, but it does. and why do you need a special break this only? Like, is it last resort? Like the Power Rangers' last resort in a fight is we will never kick someone in the nuts unless we're about to die in space. And then I need you to do that.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what?
It's a nod to the lore. One common criticism of Power Rangers everyone has is why don't they just jump in the Zords and kill the monsters immediately? Why do they go through this whole like fight sequence every episode? And in their Power Rangers contract, this is real. They can't escalate a fight until someone does something equally bad. Otherwise, they lose their powers. So this me him in the nuts is like, because he escalated, they were allowed to escalate. But this is only an emergency technique. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they would forfeit their contracts, essentially.
Wow. Okay. That's why I wanted you guys on this show. If I did this with anybody else, the show would have been like so much faster and like so much less informative of Power Rangers lore.
So I'm pretty upset though that we don't include more knee than the nuts, because there have been some moments throughout Power Rangers history where I feel like some of these monsters should have been kneed in the nuts. So they have never. Well, again, this Zord itself doesn't even exist, right? In the future television show, because
not that particular one.
Yeah, not that particular version. Yeah. All right. So they come back to Earth. They come back to Earth from space. They've defeated Ivan Ooze. The kids utilize fire hydrant or fire truck water, basically, to kind of knock their parents back out of their about to kill themselves fervor. Mm-hmm. And they get back, and Alpha 5, shitty C-3PO, tells them, shittier, by the way, because I hate C-3PO. He tells them, like, look, hey, thanks, guys, but you're too late. He laid on that fucking sharp crystal for like a week too long. He would have lived if he just got the fuck up, but Zordon has died. So they kind of all gather around his body, and they're all sad, and they emote that they're sad by going from one Power Ranger to another. And as they go to each one of them with the camera, they just look, shut their eyes, and put their head down. That's how you know a Power Ranger is sad. And then one of them's like, hey guys, hold on. Like, we learned back on Phaedos from the Owl Woman that the love you give is the, I don't remember what they say, but like, do you guys remember what it was? Was there like it was like, as long as you believe in the power, anything is possible. There you go. Which honestly, I realize is like it's just like a little bit of a turnaround from what they constantly say throughout Power Rangers lore. It's just like, may the power be with you. Because it's like, oh, okay, power's with me. That means I can do anything. And I'm thinking that's what they were trying to pull here, but try to go for like, hey, we're in the movie now. We got to say it deep. We got to create the next, like, with great power comes great responsibility moment. Yeah. And no one remembers that. Yeah.
This is why years later in Rise of Skywalker, a force can revive a person. Mm-hmm. I think this is the movie that inspired Zordon.
I think J.J. Abrams was just watching this on a Sunday afternoon and goes, nobody's going to realize I took this. Nobody's going to remember.
We got a third act.
So the kids decide to basically use their brand new spaghetti Ninjetti powers, and they revive Zordon. He kind of gets up. He's like, "Shit, this fucking couch is so uncomfortable." and they have like their wonderful moment. The movie finishes off. They're at like kind of like this fireworks display. I think this is actually a pretty cool part of the movie. I read about this where the producers didn't want to pay extras, so they put signs up all around. I think this was in Sydney. I think saying, "Come down Sunday night at 8:00 to see a fireworks display with the actors from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers," not telling them that they're filming the final scene. So people show up left and right, and then they film them all to get this last moment. Yeah.
Where was my invite?
You were 4 and you were in New York. You were not. you were not in Sydney, Australia. So that's basically how the movie ends. That's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, 1995. Yet again, one more time, I'll say it for Amanda. Thank you for your patronage. Hope you enjoyed this, but you might want to turn it off before I rate this. All right, let's talk about the box office real quick.
Show me the money.
All right, I'm going to play a little game with you guys. This movie, the opening box office weekend was the week ending July 2nd, 1995. As I said, it was a $15 million budget. It did quite well, $38 million domestically.
Not bad.
Box Office Mojo says it didn't have an international release, but I found in other places that it did, and it ended up making 69 million worldwide. 38 for sure in America. All right, I'm going to go from number 5 to number 1 that weekend. I'm going to give you guys just the stars of a movie that came out in 1995, and then you tell me if you know what it is, okay? So, it came out that week. It opened that same week at number 5. It made $12.3 million, starring Sylvester Stallone and Rob Schneider.
Wait, that could be 2 movies. It's either Judge Dredd or Demolition Man. 95.
I'm going with Judge Dredd because I feel like Demolition Man.
Oh yeah, made more money.
Yeah, made more money. Especially Snipes. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think that was 93. So you're correct, Judge Dredd. Number 4, we'll just say it right now. That's how the Power Rangers came in. Opening that week, made $12.3 million. Number 3 came out 3 weeks prior, so it had been out for 3 weeks. It made $15.3 million. Jim Carrey and Val Kilmer.
Oh, we know that one. Yeah. That's Batman Forever, baby. Yes.
Covered on Forgotten February 2 years ago. We did a trash, tolerable, or treasure episode, and Mike Butler again gave it a treasure, and I gave it what it deserved, trash. That movie is fucking it's bad. All right, number 2. It had been out for 3 weeks as well. $16 million. Voice acted. And I didn't write it all down. It's a Disney movie, and I'll give you Mel Gibson. A Disney animated film, Mel Gibson.
You know this.
Mel Gibson.
Oh, it's got to be an appropriate movie for Mel Gibson, Pocahontas.
Correct. Yes, correct.
I did not know that Mel Gibson was in that movie. I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to do this format initially with the game, and the reason I only had Mel Gibson is because I cannot remember who voiced Pocahontas, if it was someone that actually was known or if it was just an actress that kind of got lucky and got a big role.
The latter.
The speaking voice, but the singing voice was different.
Okay. All right. So number 1 for that week, it also opened the same week. It crushed Power Rangers and Judge Dredd, which also opened that week. $25.3 million. And I'll give you 2 of the stars. I won't give you the big name that I'll give it. Bill Paxton and Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon. It's too early for Independence Day.
I'll give you a hint. Space is a part of it, though.
No, Kevin Bacon was in Apollo. No, right?
No.
No. Just because you said it, I'm going to give it to you.
Wait, what?
Apollo
13?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I don't know if it's going to pick up on the mic, so I'll say Shamar said to Andrew, he said, Kevin Bacon wasn't in Apollo 13, was he? Yes, he was. Yes, he was. It was Kevin Bacon, Bill Paxton, and Tom Hanks in the shuttle. So yeah, there you go. That's the box office for July 2nd, weekend of July 2nd, 1995. All right, let's rate this thing.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll. Bring the noise.
What's our rating system? Is it out of 10? Is it
All right, as always.
Gladiator.
Was it more phenomenal or
rating systems on the pint are 0 to 5 with quarter and half scale optional. So if the movie is the worst thing ever, you give it a 0. If it's the best thing ever, give it a 5. All right. So I'm going to start with you guys. I'm going to go to Andrew first. Andrew, what do you give Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie?
If you're a fan, this is a 5 out of 5. But if you're a moviegoer, this is probably a 2.25. You're going to be confused for most of it. But I think there is some cheesy charm and fun to be had. Just how ridiculous and outlandish this plot, how fun it is to watch Ivan Ooze. The martial arts scenes can be fun. So I think if you turn this on, I think you know roughly what you're getting into. And I think you'll get exactly what you deserved, which is, I think it's around a 2.25 myself.
Shamar, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 3 because I'm going back and forth between 2.5 and 3. I work with Andrew on our podcast. I've learned over time that if you need like extended reading or watching to understand the movie, is easily not again a 5 out of 5. So with this, I know for a fact you need to have like 2 years of Power Rangers content underneath your belt just to understand it. I'm also going to give it another lower rate, another demerit, because of the fact that not only because of the CGI, but the sound effects. You can clearly hear every single time when the Power Rangers are fighting against the I don't know what they're called, but the boogie monsters that Ivan Ooze first sends against them. You can hear the little squish sounds, like great sound work, but it really takes you out of the place of watching this movie. So I will have to give this a 3 because, martial arts scenes, the story as crazy as it was, I'm not here for the dramatic dialogue that Tommy tried to give us at the end of that film. I'm here to see just like, how does this propel the Power Rangers further when it comes to fighting against monsters? But I have to give it the higher rating because of Ivan Ooze, man. Like, that was a performance that to this day, I could still quote so many of his lines by heart. Like, I was even saying them as I was rewatching this movie for probably now the 50th time.
Wow. Okay. Look, I understand this movie is made generally for kids and will probably hold a nostalgia factor for people like you that were fans as kids and came up with it. I'm not that dude. I also don't have any prior background, like you said. A lot of people will say, well, like Star Wars is a kid's movie. And I was a kid when Star Wars came out, but I feel like Star Wars had a story. I feel like Star Wars had characters that you could dig into. I feel like you don't in this. I feel like this is just an excuse to sell action figures and, and you're holding one right now. The performances of the Power Rangers kids aren't bad, but they're not good either because they give them nothing to do. Paul Freeman's great in this. Ivan Ooze has it's all cheesy dialogue, but he came in and he said, I'm going to chew the scenery up here. And it might even not even be as good as I think it is, but because everybody else is so low key, like everybody else is so on lewds in this movie, that he pops right out. A lot of times a movie like this could be saved for me by incredible effects. It ain't got that. Or by really intense fight scenes or really good fight scenes. They're not terrible, but they're not memorable. I'm surprised, even though I wasn't a fan of this when I was a kid, that I was 20 when this came out. So, but I'm still surprised that in 30 years, I've never seen it somehow. And I'm also more surprised, as I had messaged Shamar the other night, how hard it is to find this thing. It's not stream. Yes. I literally I almost said we might have to do the sequel because that's on Hulu, I think. But luckily, Shamar pointed out that YouTube has a version, which I want to mention. This version is very confusing. It's a version that has some kind of, I'm assuming, Asian subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
But when the songs play, the subtitles are in the same, or in English, the same language they're being sung in. So like the beginning when Higher Ground plays, the subtitles are just the words to Higher Ground. And I think to myself, if someone doesn't understand the words in English for the dialogue, then they need to know what the words are for the song too. But whatever, whatever. I'm not going to fight about it. I give this a 1.5.
Jesus Christ.
I did not hate this movie. It's got some bits to it that I enjoyed, but there's no rewatch factor for me. And even if I watched this and liked it and went, oh man, maybe, I don't have enough fucking hobbies. I'm going to start watching Power Rangers. Well, as you guys told me, I go to watch season 3 and none of it matters.
No.
None of it matters. But I will say, I do like doing the Triple T episode. So I want to reinvite you guys on to do the Turbo one, because I've heard nothing. Like when I mentioned it, you guys, your faces went down, and I've also heard nothing good about that movie. So come back in a few months and we'll do Turbo and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you might want a couple pints by your side, because that one is the roughest. There's 3 Power Rangers movies. There's a Race to the Bottom and Turbo, and the 2017 movie. They're going to give you a run for your money as one of the worst films in existence. I've
seen the 2017 one, and I will fully admit, as a non-fan, I didn't mind it, but also I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't buy the Blu-ray. I didn't add it to my collection. I just went, oh, that wasn't terrible, but we'll see when we talk about Turbo. All right. Before we go, I want you guys again to talk about your show. What's coming up in the future?
Yeah. So, as we mentioned before, Andrew and I are the co-host of the Yet Another DC Animated Podcast, where we are going through DC animated content throughout the years. We have covered shows such as Static Shock. We have covered the movies that came out from the DC AMU, starting with the Flashpoint Paradox, ending in Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. We also did Sweet and Sour season. And we just grew up watching this stuff. So we just had an inkling to just want to be a part of telling the stories from our perspectives. And, especially because we used to probably write fanfics about some of this stuff back in the day too. Right now we are about to start our 5th season of the show, which is
we're doing Young Justice. We did a poll between Young Justice and Harley Quinn, both great animated DC things that everyone should check out. Young Justice won out. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go through all of Young Justice, why it was canceled twice, and go all into that. And I'm springing this, but we're also probably going to cover the Harley Quinn Valentine's Day special.
Yes!
to satisfy the people who lost out on the Harley Quinn poll. And also it's going to be a fun thing on HBO Max. It's probably going to be much better than Velma. Actually, let me revise. It will be better than Velma.
I hear some bad stuff about that. I have no interest, but I hear some bad stuff about that.
Oh, yeah. That was probably going to be our most adult episode, I probably would say.
Yeah. And where can everybody find you guys on social media?
So we are currently on pretty much everything. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I feel like we probably should lead into Mastodon at one point, given our Power Rangers love.
Yeah.
So you can always find us there. We're always providing updates on what shows are premiering, some things that we're doing. Right now, we just released that we just recorded our first episode of the Young Justice season that we're going to be doing. So, you can always check us out there. We're always sharing things out about what our friends at the Forgotten Entertainment family are doing as well as the Pint. So again, John, thank you so much for having us on this. We really appreciated it. I got a chance to talk about, the second fandom that I've loved so much.
Well, you guys are great. So you're coming back to do Turbo. And I will yet again give my co-host a temporary pink slip for that week, because I have a feeling this movie would have fucking set him off. And I have a feeling Turbo might just launch him to the moon.
Oh, yeah.
And not in a good way.
Yeah. I'll say if you like boats and no action, Turbo is the movie for you.
Also, if you want to feel like you ever want to see how back pain could be very debilitating, Turbo might also be the movie for you.
All right. I'm intrigued. So yeah, please guys check everybody out there, check out their show. It is a great show. And remember, DC might be all fucked up in all other ways, but when it comes to the animated stuff, they've had a lot of good stuff. So they're covering good stuff. Marvel doesn't have any of the animated clout that DC has. So if you have never checked it out, check it out. And until next time, see ya.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!